Dear book lovers, welcome back to Audiobook Nest. Today, we continue discussing this book, A Passion for Success, by Kazuo Inamori. Yesterday, we talked about the method of finding interest in your existing work, which is cold starting, by reading extensively to create cognitive gaps, and then gaining the feeling of being respected and admired. This will eventually lead to developing interest. Everyone enjoys being praised and respected, so if you're praised every day at work, you'll find it interesting. Conversely, if you're criticized every day at work, it will feel heavier than going to a funeral. So, remember what I said, read 50 books, stick with it, and you'll be able to cold start yourself. The author gave an example of an assistant he had who came from a poor family and had reluctantly joined the factory. The author assigned him to monitor experimental data. By this time, the author had already developed a liking for his work, and whenever they achieved success in an experiment, he would celebrate enthusiastically. However, the assistant always remained aloof. One day, the author asked him why he wasn't happy, and the assistant couldn't hold back anymore. He asked, "What's there to be happy about with such a small achievement? You're always jumping around. Isn't that too frivolous?" The author was infuriated by this and immediately retorted that even small successes should be celebrated emotionally, as it brings motivation to mundane research and courage to our work, enabling us to immerse ourselves more fully in new research. Of course, it's hard to convince someone with reason alone. That aloof assistant quit the company after just 2 years. The purpose of the story, as the author tells it, is to encourage us to bravely recognize our small successes. For example, every time we finish reading a book, we can quickly find someone to show off. This is actually a reward for ourselves. When we speak out the principles from the book, we deepen our understanding and gain satisfaction. This way, you'll come to love reading. Otherwise, if you're like that assistant, always being calm and cool, life becomes dull, and you gradually lose interest in everything. It becomes difficult to achieve breakthroughs in life. So, everyone, in the realm of knowledge and work, let's proudly show off our achievements. Receiving recognition from others will give you greater courage. This path is quite challenging, but we need this self-affirmation and the affirmation of others. Besides positive affirmation, sometimes we need to use vanity to push ourselves. For example, when they were working at Kyocera, they were asked to produce an oversized water pipe, which they didn't have the capability for at the time. However, due to the insistence of the client, they casually agreed. This put them in a difficult situation, so they focused on research to avoid disappointing the client. They tried various methods, even sleeping while hugging the water pipe at night and constantly turning it to help it dry. It was this perseverance that led to success once again. So sometimes setting yourself a small goal, and even boasting about it, isn't a bad idea at all. It's a way to leverage your self-esteem and push yourself a bit. The author also says that as long as you focus wholeheartedly, solutions always outnumber difficulties. You'll often have sudden inspirations and then solve the current problem. For example, when they were firing a product, the edges always curled up due to the high temperature. Later, they came up with the idea of drilling a hole in the furnace and observing. Sure enough, as the temperature increased, the product gradually curled up. At this point, the author really wanted to reach in and press down the curled edges, but it was impossible. The furnace was at a temperature of 1000 degrees Celsius, so he could only watch helplessly as the product continued to bend. Suddenly, he had an idea. If his hand couldn't reach in, could something else? They quickly made refractory materials and used weights to press down on the product, solving the problem of curling when exposed to high temperatures. So, you must be fully committed. Inspiration often comes from continuous observation. In the world, materials can be divided into 3 types: combustible, non-combustible, and self-combustible. People can also be classified into these 3 types. The first type needs some resources to grow, called combustible. The second type is like mud, no matter how you help, it won't work, called non-combustible. The third type can ignite themselves, called self-combustible. To achieve success, you must become a self-combustible person. This requires two conditions: love and clear goals. The author belongs to the self-combustible type. He is always thinking about what he should do and how to do it better. On the other hand, his assistant is non-combustible, always idle and pouring cold water on others. They always appear indifferent, lacking enthusiasm for anything. When encountering such people, it's best to stay away from them as they can be very destructive. If your team has such a person, they can bring down the morale of the entire team. Self-combustible individuals always actively seek things to do rather than waiting for others to instruct them. Because they love what they do, they are proactive, and it's this proactivity that allows them to excel in their tasks. In the workplace, it's common to see situations where whoever suggests something is expected to carry it out. Some people always hold on to the attitude of doing less rather than more, so they always keep their distance from tasks. However, in life, it's the experiences that count, especially during employment. If you have more experiences, you become more valuable. Those who are unwilling to take on even a bit more work often find it challenging to progress. When Kyocera was first established, it had only 28 employees and rented a rundown factory in the suburbs. At that time, the author had a goal: to become the leading enterprise in Nishikayagakucho, which roughly translates to the leading enterprise in the local area. Later, he achieved this and then aimed to become the top in Chukioku, then Kyoto, and finally, to become the top in Japan, and eventually the world. It wasn't easy at all along the way because all entrepreneurs work hard. While you're working tirelessly, others are doing the same. But having such a goal is necessary. It gives you direction. So sometimes you must dare to think. Only when you dare to think and set yourself small goals can you dare to act. Many people don't even dare to think, so naturally, they have no chance of success. When the author was young, he heard a speech by the Japanese management guru Konosuke Matsushita. At that time, Matsushita talked about reservoir-style management, teaching everyone to store water when it rains for drought preparation. This metaphor means that during economic prosperity, you should accumulate cash flow and save more, preparing for economic downturns. Some people questioned Matsushita, saying they understood the concept but couldn't implement it. They asked for specific methods. This was a bit of a challenge to Matsushita, but he replied, "No, you have to want to do it." This statement struck the author like lightning. I understand that Matsushita's statement might have been confusing. What he meant was that every business is unique, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution. He couldn't provide a cure-all method, but in management, it's essential to create reserves. Therefore, you must earnestly think of ways and seriously consider how to create reserves. If you only wait for someone like Matsushita to spoon-feed you, you'll never get the standard answer, and you'll never create reserves. As long as you seriously think about it, there will always be a way to build a reservoir for your business. So, everyone should remember this: you have to think, or it won't work. Thinking is the beginning of all your goals, and no one can help you with that. Whether it's about life or work, it holds significant meaning. Some may ask, does thinking alone lead to realization? Well, desire is separated from reality by one layer, and that layer is called the subconscious. When your desire becomes a strong will, it will lead to action. Note that it must be a strong desire, not just a passing thought. Dreaming of marrying a celebrity is just a passing thought, but pursuing the girl you like at work can turn into a strong will. When you particularly like someone, you'll be motivated to take action. Tomorrow let's discuss in detail how to effectively utilize this subconscious to keep ourselves constantly moving forward. If you enjoy Audiobook Nest, feel free to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates.